Welcome to the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast with host Jacqueline Burke. On today's special feature, we are interviewing goddesses of the moon market vendor Keely from Keely's Kitchen and Garden. We know you will really enjoy this interview.
Good afternoon, Keely. How are you today? Welcome to our podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here. I would love to talk to you about markets. Love,
I'm
love, love that conversation.
I'm all for it. Yep.
Oh, right on. So you don't mind if we just jump right in?
No, have at her.
Okay, perfect. So what inspired you to start your business? And please tell our listeners the name of your business.
Sure. So my overarching business is actually just Keely Tyler Art, but I've been doing markets mostly under Keely's Kitchen and Garden.
Oh,
Um, and the reason I started that is because I got laid off.
okay. Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
good start for lots of people.
Yeah.
I've been, an artist all my life, a maker, a creator,
Yeah.
and I've been a gardener for 20 years and a witch for probably more.
Perfect.
Um, and I got a BFA and I got a diploma in stagecraft and I did all these creative things. And then I realized I like to eat.
Oh,
So I went to work in software.
oh,
And I was working in software for about 10 years. And there were definitely, there a lot of it was super enjoyable. Um, and then I got laid off along with,
yeah.
100 of my best friends. That was sort of
Oh,
the trend there, I think, in a lot of software companies. That was coming up on a couple years ago. And I just sort of thought, like, I've been doing this for that particular role for a long time. And, it's not that I don't or not that I dislike it necessarily, but I was feeling like, this is not really in alignment with a lot of my values and, what are my values
yeah.
anyway? So when I got laid off, I just thought, well, I'm just going to take some time to think about this. And so I thought about all of the things that I enjoy and all of the things that, I am and I do. And I thought, like, I'm an artist. Why am I not doing that? And one of the reasons I'm not doing that is because when I did my BFA, and I hope this has changed, but they don't teach you how to make money as an
Yeah.
artist. They, like
Yeah.
they gave me one class on how to apply for a grant, I think, in
Oh,
my like very last semester, and then off you go into the world. So
yeah.
um so I took a course on like making on art as a business
Yeah.
essentially, and I just sort of was feeling my way around. And I am an artist, but I don't necessarily want to be defined as just an artist.
Yeah.
So what else do I do? And I would say it's still a work in progress in terms of like what am I doing specifically with
Yeah.
this with Keely's Kitchen and Garden. But um, I'm finding I think good ways to blend the artist and the gardener and the herbalist and the
Yeah.
kitchen witch in me, and people seem to like them. So
Right on.
last year was my first full year of doing markets, and
Okay.
I did, I think, I want to say like 18 or 19 different
Oh,
markets in
wow.
total.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Um, and some were great, some
Yeah.
were not so great. So I'm just sort of figuring out what works for me and yeah, having fun as I go,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, it's trial and error and everything. You got to find your vibe that you like, and
Yes. Yeah.
you know,
And that's one of the things I realized, I think maybe halfway through, is like it really is the vibe. Like
yeah,
it's not, I took a second maker's business course after the first one for artists. And it had a lot of information. It was run by a Canadian woman out in Ontario, and it had a lot of information on doing markets and stuff like that.
right on.
And the first thing any business course tells you is like, who's your ideal customer?
Yes.
Still have no idea,
Yeah.
but I do know the vibe, right? Like I,
Yeah.
I, I know the vibe when I feel it, and those are going to be my customers.
Yeah,
So,
right on.
yeah. So, because I'm in Saskatchewan, I'm mostly doing markets in and around Regina. I've sort of found some of the ones that work for me. So
Yeah. Oh,
it's
that's
always,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
always a learning experience, though, right? Like I learn something
hey,
new at every single market.
absolutely. I mean, you gotta just embrace those experiences,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Some of them, I did one. couple of weeks ago, and it was not my vibe.
Okay.
And it was the first one I'd done of this year of 2025, and it was a bit kind of, I don't know. It's a bit depressing, right? It's
Oh,
just disheartening because you're like,
yeah.
oh, that didn't go well. That could have gone better. But I definitely still learned things from it and take them
Oh,
forward into the next market. So
yeah. Well, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah, you learn and you move forward and, you know,
yeah,
enjoy
exactly.
meeting the people and yeah,
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite parts of any market is always the other vendors.
yeah,
Like I know some people have said that they've had negative experiences with other vendors, and that has never been the case for me, not
yeah,
yet anyway, knock on wood. Um, Everybody's always just so like pretty pumped to be there
yeah,
and inspiring and, helpful and supportive and kind.
yeah.
Like everybody's and I've made some really good friends at markets. So
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, you grow your network, don't you? Not just like for customers, but for your friends. Like you make friends there and yeah,
yeah, and I think it makes markets a little like markets are a lot of work.
they
And
are. Yeah,
it's I'm an introvert, so they're
yeah,
particularly kind of draining for me. Not
yeah,
not stressful, but I definitely and I think that having, friends there really makes a difference. So
yeah,
instead of, toting along someone that you used to know that
yeah,
isn't a market vendor and doesn't care, is
yeah,
just there for moral support, which I still do occasionally,
yeah,
and I appreciate my friends for that. But having like other vendor friends there who get it, right?
yeah,
Like it's it's a weird, not a weird, but it's a very unique world and perspective, I think, to be doing
yeah,
markets. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so what is your favorite part about being a vendor at a market?
I think, like I said, it would have to be the other vendors. Like I
Yeah.
just, I always end up trying not to spend all the money I made because everybody's so creative. It's such
Yeah.
a like it's such an inspiring kind of atmosphere, and everybody is, like I wouldn't say I'm not like a soap maker,
Yeah.
and I think if you were somebody who did something more not common, but usual,
Yeah.
or one even just one thing versus my sort of chaotic approach, which is several things at once and then maybe something different next time. Um, it would be maybe not as encouraging to see other soap vendors there, or
Yeah.
but for me, I always see what people are doing and the unique spin they've put on it. Even if there's four soap vendors there,
Yeah.
everybody's doing something a little different, right? So yeah, I think for me it's always just I think particularly in Saskatchewan it can be kind of disheartening sometimes from a creative or a
Okay.
maker or an artistic
Yeah.
perspective. Um, because whatever it's conservative and
Hmm.
but to go to a market and see all the other vendors, all these other
Yeah.
people that are doing something, in maybe in their spare time, maybe as a job,
Yeah.
something really creative with their lives. I think I just find that to be, I don't know. I like I said, they're draining, but they're also inspiring when I
Yeah.
do a market. So
Oh, yeah. I
yeah.
always believe you go in and you got to shake it up a little bit. Like it's just, and like every community can be, whether they're conservative or old fashioned or, you know what I mean? Like they all
Yep.
have that hint of it.
Yep.
But I mean, for them to even show up, give them a
Right.
smile and a wink and away you go.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And there's and it's there's always somebody who surprises you with what they vibe with that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
offering, or like there's always somebody that in their knowledge. And I would say, like, because my background and approach is very kitchen witchy
Yeah.
homesteading,
Yeah.
I mean that has a lot in common with some of our rural uh
Yeah.
neighbors. So
Absolutely.
I think there's always something to connect over. Some people, whatever,
Oh,
you just
yeah.
walk by, but then it's not for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so what is one of the most memorable moments you've had at a market?
Um, well, the one last weekend, the power went out in the entire area.
Mm.
I wouldn't say that's the most memorable though.
Oh my
I
goodness.
did it was actually kind of a fun vibe.
Yeah.
There was still light coming in through the doors and everybody, brought out their twinkle lights that they
Oh, cool.
still had from Christmas
Yeah.
shows or whatever. But so I did a big market last uh before Christmas last
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Like one of the, where you got to pay to get in and people
Oh, wow.
travel from all over and I hadn't done one like that. And I will shortcut this by saying not my vibe, but
Okay.
I've learned that now. But I had a market, a vendor neighbor. It was a 3-day
Okay.
thing. So you get to know the people that are selling around you, right? And the person across from me, she was wonderful. She taught me so much and she'd been doing it for however long. And, our she also had hand sewn things for the kitchen, but it was a
Oh,
totally different kind of,
style and
yeah,
yeah.
niche, I guess.
Yeah.
And she's, clearly she had perfected her sales pitch, and I learned a lot from her, and we got along really well. And then um, at the end, very end of the third day, she said something that made me realize like her politics are not, they're on the other end of the spectrum from
Okay.
mine.
Yeah.
And it was just such an interesting experience to realize like that we had all this stuff in common.
Yeah.
Um, but values wasn't one of them. Like
Okay.
it was just really weird. And I'm still not sure what to take from that other than, you can find something in common with basically anybody, even if you think, even if you're playing the us and them game.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, and it was just sort of, I mean, it was like a huge surprise for me. So I don't know. That would be one of the more interesting market
Okay.
experiences I think I've had. But yeah, big
Right.
markets, not for me. Not for me.
Yeah. So have you attended markets who have had a lot of say services, or is it more product?
I've done both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done some that have, you know, um, whatever light workers or tarot
Yeah.
readers or um, Reiki practitioners and those kind of things. And I do, those are, they're often not huge.
Yeah.
And they have an interesting vibe because it's people are there for kind of a broader experience than just
Yeah.
shopping, right? Um, so I do enjoy those a lot. I think
Yeah.
that,
I find the
you know,
energy is a lot higher and
yeah, I often find that I have to protect myself,
yeah.
um, kind of shield really well in those ones because the energy is so high that I get headaches.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so which, that's fine. It's just that there's so many people operating at such a high frequency
Yeah.
in a small space, um,
Yeah.
that it can be a little more overwhelming than just, whatever Christmas
Yeah.
shopping thing.
It's almost like going
Um,
back to the 60s and 70s.
yeah, it is, right? Yeah, maybe that's it. I should do some have some edibles before I do those markets. Yeah. But I
Um,
really do like them. Like I really enjoy that match, I guess,
yeah.
of having it. And the same with like kind of a festival atmosphere. Like I've
Yeah.
done some markets at festivals where they had, yoga going on or
Yeah.
whatever services as well as vendors and like I really like that
Yeah.
atmosphere. It's very
I like the music festivals with the vendors and yeah,
yeah,
it makes for a cool experience.
it really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean I'm not a music festival person per se.
Yeah.
Um, but I like that kind of atmosphere
Yeah.
in terms of, being a vendor. I've decided, so the witch hats that I make, I'm only gonna sell them at festivals this
Oh, are
year,
you?
like at a
Okay.
festival kind of, because that's where people are
Yeah.
interested in that kind of, and I also have a friend who goes to a lot of music festivals, so I'm just gonna send hats with her.
Oh, right on.
Just, or at least cards. Here,
Yeah,
wear a hat, take my card. Yeah.
right on. So what piece of advice would you give someone just starting right out the gate in the market world?
Um, I'm not sure that I'm the best person to answer that since I haven't been doing it for very long.
Well, from your
But
experience the first year?
yeah, I would say don't, I mean, a few things like don't take it personally is
Yeah,
one of the things I find I still struggle with, like I said, when you have a market and you don't do so well, it doesn't mean that your product or your service or your offering isn't good,
right.
right?
Yeah.
It's just not for the people that were there, or you were
Yeah.
in a poor location, or it was poorly advertised, or it was, like um, I think it could be easy to get discouraged, and really you just have to keep going and
Yeah.
not just doing markets, but also keep going in terms of, kind of growing your business. So
Hmm.
even if you just do one small thing every day, like if you're doing it while you're working a full-time job, um, just do a little thing every day and then
Yeah.
take the time to look back 3 months or
Yeah.
6 months and be like, oh, here's all the things I did, like
Yeah.
I can feel quite often like, "Oh, I haven't made any progress, but when I look at what I was doing a year ago or even 6 months ago, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like start listing it out. It's like, oh wow, yeah, I've done all the things.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess that would be my advice is like just jump in and do it, but try not to,
Yeah.
you know,
I think like too, and working together is important, I find. Um, like when the market promotes, like you share their stuff and then they share your
hmm
stuff, and then like that old commercial where you tell two people and so on and so on.
yeah,
Same kind of vibe, right? Like it's just completely working together. And because, it's all about teamwork, no matter what you do in this world now. It's about
yes.
coming together and just working together for a great, outcome.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the reasons I like doing, smaller markets that are on
Yeah,
theme,
yeah,
essentially, right? Which it does include those markets that have practitioners
yeah,
and services as because those are kind of, the de facto community, right? Just like I
yeah,
said with the big one, just
yeah,
because I was across the way from this other vendor and we had some stuff in common doesn't mean that she would necessarily be my people.
yeah,
Um, but and nor do those big shows like those. I mean, I'm talking like huge shows, not,
yeah, like the expo style.
yeah, like those
Yeah,
expo style ones. I mean, none of those people cross promote any of the vendors around them, right?
yeah,
And I wouldn't even say that the markets promote your stuff individually because there's just
yeah,
too many vendors. Whereas with a market kind of, your size
yeah,
is you at least get to meet everybody and,
yeah,
cross promote and share what you like and yeah, support and that's your community, right? Those are the people
yeah.
that
I've been in the industry for a while, and I find like from the larger markets that we've done to the smaller ones, like we've done a spiritual spa market.
hmm
Um, it didn't really matter the size. We always did that for our vendors, the
hmm
promotion, because it's important. I mean, at the end of the day, it is about the vendors. It's not about the market.
right.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, without
that's
them
how
you
we
wouldn't
look at it
you
anyways,
wouldn't have
because
one.
it's important to support the vendors and the economy needs that, you know,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
need that. The whole entire country needs that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important. It's a new world. New world
Yeah.
compared to last year.
Right.
So
Yes. I mean, I'm really hoping that, with markets this year and this recent emphasis there has been on buying Canadian and buying
yeah,
local and like that will because last couple of years markets have been flagging a bit. That's what I've heard from, I mean,
Oh, okay.
leave it to me to start a
Okay.
business in the middle of a recession, but everybody that had been doing it for longer than me had said, like, oh, this is the worst year,
Oh,
like in terms of sales
yeah.
and even attendance, and people just aren't spending as much money. But um, I think this year with this sort of elbows up by Canadian
Oh, yeah.
movement, that
Yeah.
markets will hopefully be the beneficiaries of that, and people will,
Oh, yeah.
because it stays in your community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like almost all of it, not even just, buying Canadian but buying local at a
Yeah.
small market or any local market.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
just helping each other, and
Yeah, and I think that's going to be super important, just because, yeah,
it
everything's weird and on
is.
fire.
Oh, man. Okay, so let's get into some inspiration here.
Oh,
So,
sure.
where did your inspiration come from for your business? Like,
Um,
type of business you have?
yeah. So, like I said earlier, I took this art business class, and it was a sort of a larger course, but there was a woman who runs it, and as part of it, she had uh one-on-ones often where they were recorded for, the rest of the students, and in case they had the same sort of, where you could bring a question and she would help you out. So initially I was thinking, like, I'm an artist, I'll have art, and
Yeah,
I, I'll sell surface pattern art for, I'll license my patterns and stuff like that.
that's cool.
Um, yeah, but I also I was doing markets, and I want to do markets, and I want to put my art on things to sell, and
Yeah.
I didn't quite know, like, what is that exactly? Like, what is my product? And so that was the question I brought to her in the one-on-one. And she kind of went off on a bit of like, I also do dog portraits
Oh,
sometimes, or pet
nice.
portraits, or, like, I have many interests
Yeah.
and no focus.
Uh,
Um, but so she kind of looked at my website, which was my portfolio website, and she, looked at my Instagram, and basically was like, well, you need to make money, so you should just be the dog portrait lady. Like, you should take
oh,
these and just do that. Like, that's all your Instagram, that's all your marketing, that's all your. And I kind of thought, okay, well, I mean, she's running a $1 million art business. Like, she
yeah.
knows what she's talking about. But I kind of sat with it for a while, and I'm like, it just didn't feel like a thing I wanted to do. Like, I like doing dog portraits.
Yeah.
I still paint, you know, commissions like that, but
Yeah.
um like, I just don't, I do I just want to do that? Like, not really. And I was working with a business coach who is also a friend of mine at the time, and he kind of said, well, it sounds to me like that's too transactional for you. Like,
Uh,
you want to have a business that is also you as a person, right? Like,
right.
you want to sell who you are as well
Yeah.
as, and I thought, yeah, I think that's right. And so I thought about, like, what else I am as a person. I'm a dog person, but I'm also, a kitchen witch, and um, I'm a herbalist, and I'm a, gardener, and I'm a artist, and I'm a mom, and, like,
Yeah.
I'm all these things. So what do I want to do? So, um, I kind of thought, well, I don't know exactly specifically what it is yet that I want to do, but I do know that I spend, if I'm not sleeping, 95% of my time is in the kitchen or the garden.
Yeah.
So I
That's
want
fantastic.
that. Yeah. So I've kind of combined, art that I've made in terms of repeat patterns. I get it printed on a fabric, and then I sew, kitchen aprons or garden aprons or kitchen things. And then, but then I brought the herbalism piece
Oh,
in with
yeah.
gardens, and I did a whole dandelion collection, and so there's the art and the herbalism. And then I've also, started doing kitchen witch things like
Yeah.
simmer pots, and I'm gonna have
Cool.
some of my teas available right away. And I paint spoons that are intention spoons for,
Oh,
you know,
nice. Yes.
stirring an intention into your coffee in the morning.
Yes. Nice.
And so, yeah, I guess that's sort of the long version of the inspiration, but and it's still, like I said, a work in progress because I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
When people say, "Oh, I don't have any ideas," I'm like, I have the opposite problem.
Yeah.
I have so many ideas
Oh,
and not enough time to do them.
I completely understand that.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I think a lot of creatives are like that.
Oh,
Um, that yeah, because everything is interesting and inspiring, and I want to learn it and do it, and I have all
yeah.
these, you know, pre-existing skills and hobbies, and
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Oh,
but you
that's
can't do them all.
no, but you
No,
can try.
but you can try. So that's what I'm trying to do is basically mash all those things together, right?
That's cool. Um, so what are some of the most common questions you get from your customers at a market?
Um, yeah, common questions. I guess I get about the simmer pots. I get, is that tea?
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
tea. Um, and could you make me something like XYZ? And the
Oh,
answer is,
okay. Yeah.
you know, probably, but I don't want to.
Okay. Yeah.
I've made these things. If you don't like any of them, that's on you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I get a lot of sort of I think what I would call people that are a bit afraid to ask.
Okay.
And then it's like, do you want the spiel about the spoons? And they go, okay. And then I explain, you know, the intention spoons to them,
That's
and then
cool.
they're more engaged. But um yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
it's kind of neat. Like it's important if you're approached by your customer that has a question about your product, like that's a blessing,
yes,
because
absolutely. Yep.
they're not assuming, they much rather ask.
Yep.
And yeah, and they're learning and that's fantastic that they
Yeah, I like talking. I mean, that's part of the reason I wanted to do stuff that is more me, quote
yeah,
unquote, right? Is because then I can talk about it.
right.
Whereas, you know, like without feeling disingenuous, which is,
Yeah.
you know, like a fairly important for me. And yeah, people buy your joy. Like that's
They do.
a thing that I've come to realize is that your enthusiasm and your kind of you know, in if you're just doing art, like straight up art, people
Yeah,
buy your joy. So if you love that piece,
yeah,
you know, you love that painting or that drawing or whatever,
yeah,
the right person is going to come along and buy that. And I found that that's the same with the products I make for
yeah,
my kitchen and garden stuff is just that people are like, oh, that's really cool, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you put so much love into in your heart into your work, it's like parting with a loved one when you're selling it, you know,
Hmm.
because you just invest all of yourself into it.
Right. And that makes
Yeah.
it doubly hard to not take it personally, right? Like
Yeah.
that's my conflicting advice is put all of your soul into your
Yeah.
stuff, but then don't take it personally when people don't
Right?
like it,
Yeah.
which is a difficult balance to strike for sure. But I think if you're in the right place in your life and, you know,
Hmm.
you're kind of um if it's aligned enough for you, I think that that's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Yeah. Right on. Well, you're gonna inspire many, Keely. You
I
really
hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's you're a blessing. You really
Thank
are.
you. Thank you.
So I want to ask you maybe two more questions here if we can fit them in.
Sure.
So what do you love most about the markets you attend? Like what draws you?
Um, do you mean a market that, you know, is
Yeah,
fits my vibe or
yeah, it could be
um
anything if it fits your vibe or if it's just something that speaks to you and tells you to go, you know,
right. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a kind of a tough question. I mean, I think that markets that are along that have been set up for metaphysical
Yeah,
practitioners or vendors, or like those are obviously a good fit for me.
yeah.
I did have an experience last year where I attended one and I almost felt like I wasn't witchy enough.
Oh, oh,
I hadn't started doing the simmer pots, and I
okay.
was more focused on kind of garden, right?
Yeah,
I hadn't leaned the other, into the witchy side of things yet, because I was still very, it was the beginning of the year. I was still very much figuring things out. I think if I did that same market again now, it would be a different story.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I've sort of found myself moving towards those types of markets and those themes. I mean, I certainly love a good festival market that isn't,
yeah,
like the Cathedral Village Arts Festival is
yeah,
great for me, just because it's such a fun
yeah,
vibe, regardless, it's arts,
yeah,
music and joy, and it's always a nice day. So yeah, I think, yeah, honestly, like once you start building that kind of network
yeah,
of vendor friends, and
yeah.
a lot of times that's what attracts me to a market, is
Who's
if
going and
somebody I know is like,
yeah,
hey, are you going to this?
yeah,
You know, I will if you will, and
yeah,
then you at least know that,
yeah,
you're gonna match with
yeah,
someone else's there, and if nothing else, you get to talk to your vendor friend. So
yeah, right on.
um, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's the
that's
community you create, huh?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, like I said, the big markets are not for me, and I want to be able to spend time talking to other vendors and
yeah,
customers without, feeling like I'm giving the same spiel
yeah,
200 times in a day. And, one of the things I really enjoy is getting customer feedback still,
yeah,
because, I am just still sorting some stuff out, and so hearing what people think or what they have to say. I mean, I think the intention spoon was actually, I think, an idea from a customer, because
oh wow,
I was making bigger spoons, like, for cooking,
oh yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, it'd be great if it was like a coffee spoon," and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's a brilliant idea! Why didn't I think of that?" And now it's one of my best sellers. So, um,
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Bless those customers, they just, they show
Well,
up, the right ones show up when it's needed, right? Like
right,
in more
yes,
ways than one. It just,
yeah. I feel like, a lot more synchronicity happens when I'm at those
yeah,
types of markets. Even with the high vibes and the occasional headache,
yeah.
I just, like it just feels like everything is lined up the way it
Oh
should
yeah,
be, versus some of the other ones I've done where I feel really frantic and kind of hectic, and,
yeah,
things aren't going well. Even sometimes, I sell a lot at those
yeah,
ones, they just feel still a little off.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my last question is, how do you think the market contributes to the community?
Um, I feel like I definitely feel like, I mean, at least for me, but I think for lots of people, the reason they go to markets is to sort of get that window into the creativity that's going on in the community, because you don't always see it, especially in Saskatchewan, where there's
Oh,
snow on the ground 6 months out of
yeah,
the year and nobody wants to go anywhere,
yeah,
right? Like, I don't even want to go to the mall, never
yeah,
mind, so um seeing the creativity. And I think, as humans, we are, uh uh, at least quite a lot of us are driven to do or make or help with something tangible, right? And I think lots of people, work a job where maybe that's not the case
yeah.
anymore. Like, so much of our work now is digital and ephemeral,
Oh,
and like, if you spend all day doing that, which, I did when I was working in software, and I think that's a lot of the reason I felt like I wasn't really lined up with my personal values. But I think lots of people, feel the need to do a thing, whether that's artistic or, everything's creative, even if you're just plunking along working on your
Yeah.
junk or car in the garage on
Yeah.
the weekend, right?
Right.
Um, one of my very good friends swears she's not creative, but she's the most amazing cook. Like
Aw.
she just creates these fantastic meals, and it's like
Oh, yeah.
you are creative though, and you're making and you're serving your
Yeah.
community, even if that community is just your tiny little family and friends or whatever. Um, and I think the markets really give people that connection to doing, right?
Yeah.
Even if they can't do or they can't make or they, don't feel that they're of service, they can go and they can kind of soak up that vibe, and they can contribute to their
Yeah.
community by buying some of the stuff that the local vendors are selling. And then yeah, that just all stays in the community, and it kind of helps everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a blessing, eh? Just
I
to have
do.
that.
Well, and it's such a social event, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a thing that you go to. It's
Yeah.
not just, going to the mall
Yeah.
or shopping online, which, I'm not knocking the shopping
Yeah.
online because I still like doing it. But yeah, just going out, and even, for an introvert like me, I do like to go see new stuff. And
Yeah.
markets are often a great big display of new stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you've never seen these vendors before. Maybe you've never,
Yeah.
you've never had a Reiki healing. You've never
Yeah.
had your tarot cards read, or, like all of those
Yeah.
things are kind of new and interesting experiences that you share with your community. And I think that that's super important.
Yeah. It's expanding a community and, you know, welcoming new
Right.
without kind of bringing in, you know what I mean? Like you're part of the community that people didn't know. So
Yes.
so it's new,
Yeah.
and that whole new vibe for them is exciting,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. In a sort of, not everybody wants all new stuff all at once. It'd
Right.
be too overwhelming, but the market offers them kind of that
Yeah.
glimpse. And um yeah, I think just the not like maybe not just the novelty of it, but uh novelty and a social
Yeah.
connection, and like it's a yeah,
It's cool.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you.
Yes, I think I
It,
did most of the talking.
huh?
I said I think I did most of the talking.
You know, that you're supposed to.
Okay. Well, it's been great talking to you too.
Okay, well, you have a great day, and we
Thanks, you
will
too.
be definitely talking to you again. I'd love to touch base maybe in say another 6 months
Sure.
and find out how your season went and get an update from you. Does that sound okay?
That sounds amazing. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Keely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us at the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast.